But the humans had something the Valaxians hadn't counted on: creativity born from desperation. Unable to stabilize the quantum fields through conventional means, they began using the station's own deteriorating systems to create a feedback loop. They turned their failing equipment into an improvised quantum lens, focusing the very disruptions meant to destroy them into a makeshift shield. "Impossible," whispered a council member as they watched the humans not only save their station but collect enough data to begin reverse engineering the principles behind the Valaxian technology. "Did you see that energy signature?" one human scientist exclaimed over the comm channel. "This wasn't a natural phenomenon. Someone out there just tried to teach us a lesson, but I don't think they expected us to take notes." The laughter that followed sent shivers through the council chamber. Not only had the humans survived, but they had also transformed an attack into an opportunity for technological advancement. Already, research facilities around Earth were analyzing the data, developing new theories about quantum manipulation and space-time interactions. "We must reconsider our approach," Nexel announced. "Each attempt to demonstrate their vulnerability only reveals more of their strength. They don't just resist death, they weaponize their brush with it, turning near defeat into victory." The council watched as humans celebrated their survival, their joy mixed with an intense curiosity about the force behind the attack. They weren't cowering in fear of another incident. Instead, they were preparing for it, upgrading their systems, and expanding their understanding of the universe. "Perhaps," Zora suggested, her bioluminescence pulsing with a new pattern of understanding, "we have been asking the wrong question. The mystery isn't why they laugh at death, it's what this laughter allows them to achieve." The Valaxian High Council's monitoring systems detected something unprecedented. Humans had begun developing technology based on the quantum disruption data they'd gathered during the space station incident. But instead of weaponizing it as expected, they were using it to push the boundaries of space exploration. "They're incorporating our attack signatures into their propulsion systems," Zara reported, her bioluminescence flickering with disbelief. "They've somehow turned our attempt to destroy them into a method of faster-than-light travel." The council chamber erupted in chaos as they watched humans prepare their first quantum drive test. The technology was crude by Valaxian standards, but it represented an evolutionary leap that should have taken centuries to achieve. More disturbing was the attitude of the test pilots. "Engines hot, control. If this works, drinks are on me. If it doesn't, well, I guess I won't have to pay up." The pilot's laughter echoed through the observation feeds, followed by the chuckles of her ground crew. "Their behavior remains incomprehensible," Nexel stated. "They understand this test could tear their vessel apart at the quantum level, yet they approach it with levity." The test flight was authorized. The Valaxians watched, expecting disaster. The human vessel engaged its quantum drive, creating ripples in space-time that their sensors could detect across light years. For a moment, it seemed the ship would disintegrate. Instead, it successfully jumped to Mars orbit in minutes, a journey that previously took months. Confirming arrival at Mars, the pilot's voice crackled through space, filled with excitement rather than relief. "You should see the view from here. Also, someone better alert the colony that we're going to need a bigger landing pad for all the ships we're about to build." The Council's analysis systems struggled to process the implications. The humans hadn't just survived their brush with quantum physics, they'd mastered it enough to revolutionize their space travel capabilities. And they were already planning to scale up the technology. "Most concerning," Zara observed, "is their distribution of knowledge. Other species we've encountered hoard technological breakthroughs, using them for advantage over their own kind. Humans freely share their discoveries, accelerating their collective advancement." The Council watched as the quantum drive specifications were transmitted to research centers worldwide. Within days, improvements were being proposed, safety measures enhanced, and new applications theorized. The humans treated potentially lethal technological advancement as a collaborative adventure. "Their response to the unknown is unique," Nexel admitted. "Where others see danger, they see opportunity. Where others retreat, they advance. And they do it all with this persistent humor. Within hours, dozens of ships launched from Earth despite the dangerous storm conditions. The Valaxians observed in disbelief as human engineers brainstormed solutions while making jokes about Martian weather. Emergency teams suited up, sharing light-hearted banter about who would buy the first round of drinks after the rescue. "This is beyond reckless," Zara commented, her bioluminescence pulsing with agitation. "They're sending more humans into an obviously lethal situation. Their behavior contradicts all rational survival protocols." But as the rescue operation unfolded, the Valaxians began to understand something their previous observations had missed. The humans weren't ignoring death. They were innovating around it. Teams on Earth rapidly designed and fabricated emergency atmospheric scrubbers using 3D printers. Engineers in the colony, their oxygen running low, calmly worked to adapt Martian soil processing equipment into makeshift air filters. When the dust storms prevented ships from landing, the rescue teams deployed experimental drop pods they'd been saving for a rainy day. Another human joke that baffled the Valaxians. "Fascinating," Nexel observed. "They're not just accepting the risk of death. They're using the threat as a catalyst for advancement. Each solution they devise is being documented and shared across their global information networks." The humans had turned a potential tragedy into a learning opportunity. Even as they fought to save the colony, they were already discussing how to improve their emergency protocols, design better equipment, and prepare for future crises. The rescue operation succeeded, but not without cost. 2 human pilots were lost in the storms. The Valaxians expected this to finally break the human spirit, to make them reconsider their aggressive approach to survival. Instead, they watched as humans on Earth and Mars held ceremonies celebrating the lost pilots as heroes. Their sacrifices weren't treated as failures or warnings. They were honored as inspiration for future generations. "They're implementing the lessons learned even now," Zara reported, monitoring the human networks. "They're calling it the Beta Protocol. New atmospheric processors are being designed. Emergency response procedures are being updated. They're already testing improved drop pod systems." The council chamber filled with uneasy vibrations. Their test had failed, or perhaps it had succeeded too well. Instead of exposing human weakness, it had revealed depths of resilience they hadn't anticipated. "We may have miscalculated," Nexel admitted. "Their relationship with death doesn't restrict their expansion. It accelerates it. Each crisis, each loss, becomes a foundation for further advancement. They don't just defy death, they learn from it." The implications were clear. The humans weren't just an anomaly. They were a new kind of threat, one that grew stronger from the very challenges meant to contain them. The Valaxian High Council reached a consensus. The humans needed to be shown the true meaning of fear. Their previous test had only emboldened the species, demonstrating their inexplicable ability to transform potential tragedy into progress. Now, it was time for a more direct approach. They chose their moment carefully, waiting until Earth's most advanced space station was conducting a critical experiment in quantum communications. The Valaxians possessed technology that could easily disrupt such delicate operations, causing a cascading failure that would demonstrate the futility of humanity's ambitions. The attack came without warning. Quantum fields collapsed. Critical systems failed. The space station's orbit began to decay. But once again, the humans defied expectations. "Houston, we've got a situation here," the station commander reported, her voice steady despite the blaring alarms. "But you should see the light show these quantum fluctuations are giving us. Jenkins, are you getting this on camera? The physics department is going to love this data." The Valaxians monitored the communications in stunned silence. Even as their station spiraled toward catastrophe, the humans were treating it as an opportunity to gather scientific information. "They're scanning the quantum disruptions," Zara reported incredulously. "They've already theorized that the anomalies are artificial in nature. They're not just trying to survive, they're trying to understand what's happening to them." Ground control centers around the world sprang into action. Instead of panic, there was coordinated problem-solving. Teams of scientists and engineers worked in parallel, sharing data and theories in real time. They tracked the quantum disturbances, analyzed patterns, and began developing countermeasures. The probability of success is negligible, Nexel stated, his crystalline form vibrating with certainty. Their technology is far too primitive to counter our interference. The Valaxian High Council had spent centuries studying primitive species across the galaxy. Their mission was simple: identify potential threats and eliminate them before they could evolve into competitors. But humans puzzled them from the very beginning. Most extraordinary, Chief Observer Nexel muttered, his crystalline appendages shifting uneasily as he reviewed the latest reports from Earth. They're aware of their own mortality, yet they persist in the most dangerous behaviors. The observation chamber hummed with the collective thoughts of the Council as they processed the data streams. Humans climbed mountains knowing they could fall. They dove into oceanic depths despite the crushing pressures. They hurled themselves into space in vessels that were practically primitive by Valaxian standards. The death awareness tests are conclusive, Senior Analyst Zora added, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with confusion. They understand their finite nature. They comprehend their inevitable end. Yet, unlike every other species we've encountered, this knowledge doesn't paralyze them. If anything, it seems to drive them forward. The Council watched in fascination as their feeds showed humans participating in activities they classified as extreme sports. Beings deliberately jumping from great heights with nothing but fabric to slow their descent. Others racing vehicles at lethal velocities. Some even fighting each other for entertainment. Perhaps they're simply too primitive to fully grasp the concept of death, suggested one council member, but Nexel shook his crystalline head structure. No, their philosophical writings show a deep understanding of mortality. They've built entire belief systems around it. They create art about it. They joke about it. He paused, allowing that last point to sink in. They laugh at death. This revelation sent ripples of discomfort through the chamber. In all their studies of evolving species, the Valaxians had never encountered one that treated mortality with humor. Fear of death was supposed to be the ultimate control mechanism, the fundamental force that kept species in check and prevented them from becoming too adventurous, too ambitious. There's more, Zora continued, bringing up new data streams. When faced with lethal challenges, they don't retreat as expected. They problem solve. They innovate. They adapt. And most disturbing of all, they share these solutions with others of their kind, accelerating their collective advancement. The Council watched footage of human emergency responders rushing into burning buildings, of doctors fighting hopeless battles against disease, of astronauts calmly fixing equipment failures in the vacuum of space while making light-hearted comments to their ground control. Their response to death isn't submission or paralysis, Nexel concluded, his crystalline form vibrating with concern. It's defiance. And this defiance drives their entire civilization forward at an alarming rate. As if to emphasize his point, the feeds showed humans celebrating another successful spacecraft landing, their cheers and laughter echoing through the observation chamber. The Valaxians, who had never lost a member of their species to a space mission thanks to their ultra-cautious approach, found this particularly unsettling. We must revise our entire assessment protocol, Nexel declared. The traditional metrics for evaluating species threat levels clearly don't apply here. A species that laughs in the face of death. He left the thought unfinished, but every member of the Council understood the implications. The humans weren't just another primitive species to be monitored. They represented something entirely new. Beings who acknowledged their mortality but refused to be limited by it. And as the Valaxians were beginning to realize, this made them more dangerous than any species they had encountered in their millennia of observation. The Valaxian High Council decided to conduct an experiment. If humans truly possessed this unique relationship with mortality, it needed to be tested. They selected a remote human colony on Mars for their first trial. The atmospheric processors on Mars Colony Beta suddenly failed during the planet's notorious dust storm season. 300 humans faced imminent death as their oxygen supplies dwindled. According to every predictive model the Valaxians had developed, the logical response would be evacuation. No species would risk additional lives to save a doomed colony. The Valaxians watched, expecting to finally see the humans exhibit proper fear. Instead, they witnessed something unprecedented. Mission control on Earth crackled to life with transmissions. Colony Beta, we're receiving your distress signal. Hold tight. We're coming for you. The voice was calm, almost cheerful. In the background, they could hear people laughing as they worked. The feeds showed humans celebrating their achievement, already planning missions to the outer solar system. Their jokes about taking the scenic route and dropping by Jupiter for coffee masked the serious implications of their advancement. We must acknowledge a difficult truth, Nexel continued. Our efforts to contain them have only served to accelerate their evolution. Each obstacle we place in their path becomes a stepping stone, a greater achievement. The council chamber filled with uneasy vibrations as they realized their fundamental error. They had assumed that a species aware of death would naturally choose caution, would seek to minimize risk and avoid danger. The humans had revealed another path, one where the acknowledgement of mortality became a source of strength rather than weakness. They don't laugh at death because they don't understand it, Zara concluded. They laugh because they've accepted it as the price of progress, and they've decided the price is worth paying. The quantum drive was just the beginning. Within months, humans had launched deep space expeditions to every corner of their solar system. Their ships carried crews who faced the unknown with a mixture of scientific curiosity and irreverent humor that continued to baffle the Valaxians. They've detected our observation probes, Zara announced one cycle, her bioluminescence pulsing with urgency. Not only that, they're actively trying to make contact. The council watched as human vessels deliberately approached their cloaked monitoring stations. Instead of showing fear at the discovery of alien technology, the humans were broadcasting messages of greeting, in multiple formats and languages, punctuated with jokes about hoping the neighbors like to party. This goes against all established protocols, Nexel stated. They should be preparing defensive measures, not extending invitations. But the humans had gone further. They'd begun leaving small automated stations near the Valaxian probes, each containing libraries of human knowledge, art, and culture. The messages attached made the council collectively shudder. To our spacefaring friends, we know you're watching. We know you tried to scare us. No hard feelings. Thanks for the quantum physics lesson. When you're ready to talk, we'll be here. We make pretty good coffee, or whatever your species enjoys. P.S. If you're wondering about the whole death thing, we'd love to compare notes. The council could no longer maintain its passive stance. The humans weren't just advancing. They were actively reaching out to the very beings who had attempted to destroy them. And they were doing it with their characteristic blend of friendliness and humor that masked an unstoppable determination. We must make a decision, Nexel announced. They will find us eventually. Their rate of technological advancement has exceeded all projections. The question is no longer if we should reveal ourselves, but how. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some advocated for a show of overwhelming force, a final attempt to instill the fear that humans seemed to lack. Others suggested retreat, abandoning their observation posts before humans could track them to their home systems. But as they argued, the humans made the decision for them. A quantum drive signature appeared directly outside the council's cloaked observation post near Saturn. A single human ship, small but advanced, had somehow tracked them down. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Explorer Curiosity. The transmission came through clear and confident. We bring greetings from humanity. Also, we figured out your cloaking technology. Pretty impressive stuff. We'd love to discuss it over dinner, if you eat dinner. If not, we're open to suggestions. The council fell silent as the human ship maintained its position, making no aggressive moves despite having every reason for hostility. Their scans showed the vessel was armed with quantum-based weapons, technology reverse-engineered from their own attacks, yet the humans were choosing diplomacy. "They're scanning us," Zara reported. "But they're also transmitting music, something called classical jazz along with mathematical equations. They're trying to establish multiple forms of communication simultaneously." Nexel's crystalline form shimmered as he processed the situation. The humans had turned every weapon the Valaxians had deployed against them into a tool for advancement. They had taken the Council's best efforts to destroy them and transformed them into opportunities for growth. And now, instead of seeking revenge, they were seeking dialogue. "Perhaps," Nexel said slowly, "we have been the primitive ones. We assumed that awareness of death would be a limiting factor in species development. These humans have shown us that it can instead be a catalyst for extraordinary achievement."